Welcome to part one of the Supporting Giftedness Professional Development. Today we're going to talk about who are the high ability students in our classroom and the different characteristics that might identify them. First of all, it's important for us to differentiate between high ability students and gifted students. High ability students are those who perform with academic excellence throughout subjects, yet A, have not been identified as gifted through the proper means, or B, don't meet the benchmarks of gifted identification. On the other hand, gifted students are students who have met the benchmarks of gifted identification, have undergone the process of identification, and are receiving the services and supports pertaining to said benchmarks. There are 6 main areas of giftedness that we like to address, and those are A, creative thinking, B, specific academic ability, C, leadership, D, general intellectual ability, E, psychomotor, and F, performing arts. When you talk about the creative thinker, it's usually someone who is very good when it comes to creating material. Um, the gifted student in the area of creative thinking loves to invent things, um, and is particularly good in the area of expression. Similarly, or should I say, another area of giftedness is the general intellectual ability student. And it's a student that has a particularly good ability to process information in complex ways. This individual is inquisitive and loves to use large vocabulary and express themselves in a variety of ways, especially when it comes to learning quickly. Um, on the other hand, the specific academic ability student is one that um, is good at targeting a specific subject or a specific area of interest. Um, this individual is inquisitive in this area and loves to comprehend and learn more about their area of interest. In terms of the leadership giftedness, this individual is one that is organized, fluent, loves to assume responsibility and lead others in the development of projects. This individual has a really good judgment and is able to identify the costs and benefits of a particular action fairly well. In terms of psychomotor giftedness, this individual is very well coordinated and is able to um, succeed in physical challenges and activities. Um, they are generally very athletic and enjoy sports. Finally, the visual or performing arts individuals who are gifted have a really good sense of expression. They, similar to creativity, really succeed in creative endeavors um, and have a really good motor coordination, which generally can be seen either in their success in the areas of music or the areas of theater. Um, Now we're going to see a little bit more about some characteristics of gifted students. And for this, it's important to know that although these characteristics will be identified here, it doesn't mean that every gifted student has all of these characteristics or that these characteristics stay constant throughout the student's life. Characteristics of giftedness may change over time as a result of an individual's life or changes in just the way an individual perceives learning. In terms of cognitive characteristics, which is the most common set of characteristics that are addressed when it comes to gifted students, I used the book Fundamentals of Gifted Education, considering multiple perspectives, because I believe it gives a pretty thorough view of some of the cognitive aspects of giftedness. First and foremost, a gifted individual has an ability to retain large amounts of information. This comes in the form of memorization, or may also come in the form of complex comprehension. Additionally, these individuals learn new content easily, and it's usually paired with a high curiosity because their interest in that particular subject matter or in that area helps them learn the content. Similarly, gifted students have advanced language development and have a diversity of interests, or in the case of specific academic ability, a fixation on a specific one. Um, Finally, as we mentioned before, gifted students generally have a greater depth of comprehension and an advanced sense of humor that tags along with the fact that they are curious and um, attempt to always learn more things. Needless to say, all of these characteristics, although they're general for gifted students, like, they can't be generalized to all the areas of giftedness because, as we saw before, depending on the kind of giftedness that a student perceives, he or she will display different characteristics that are more tailored to that area that um, is their strength. Now, in terms of socio-emotional characteristics, it is important to mention that there's a pretty big misconception in terms of these characteristics, but research has not found enough data to confirm the perception that gifted students differ significantly from their non-gifted peers in their social and emotional skills. That being said, there are definitely some characteristics of giftedness that could influence social and emotional behaviors. Um, on the next slide, we will see a few examples. For example, a gifted student that has, as we mentioned before, an unusual sense of humor could be misunderstood by his or her peers, or their sense of humor could be used negatively to make fun of peers. Um, Another example, for example, is their elevated expectations of self because they feel they are self aware and know that they um, are good and successful academically. The student may become hard on him or herself, and this may cause some negative perfectionism where a student takes failure wrong or mistakes wrong. Um, Another socio-emotional characteristic that could have potential negative consequences is a heightened sensitivity towards the opinions of others. This could result in high self-awareness and an unhealthy need for recognition. Finally, pretty similar to the 3 points mentioned above, this could cause a gifted student could have early idealistic standards, meaning that um, they have this ideal that they want to reach and get frustrated if they're unable to get there. And this could cause, once again, them to be hard on themselves. And it could also cause isolation because of disagreement and intolerance. Once again, all of these points um, were um, taken from Callahan and Hartberg Davis's book, Fundamentals of Gifted Education, um, because I think it's a great way to look at the socio-emotional development of gifted students. While it is true that some of their social and emotional cues can be perceived in a negative light, the core characteristic isn't really negative, um, and can be moderated and supported to avoid negative consequences. Finally, I would love to mention that gifted students often experience some kind of asynchrony, and by this we mean that their developmental age, or physical age, or even their emotional and social age doesn't quite match their intellectual development, and this might be maybe a cause of frustration for gifted students because um, they're so way ahead intellectually in a specific area or in general that they notice the difference and either want to keep up or struggle to understand why this asynchrony happens. here are some of the resources, as I mentioned, that I used for this part of the PD. And I look forward to seeing you in part 2.